My intention from SEND7 is really that people maybe who don't have enough time or they don't really want to sit down and study English, they still have 7 minutes of connection to English in their daily life. So, they wake up, they're making a coffee, and they have a really, really busy day where they have to do loads of work, but they still have 7 minutes where they can listen to real messages in English. That's the main idea behind the podcast.
I would like to focus on your news podcast, Simple English News Daily, because I find it really interesting to listen to a news podcast in order to improve our English skills. But don't get me wrong, of course, I find it also interesting to know about your other topics. Of course, we want to talk about your language journey as well. And you also taught other people, right, English when you were living abroad. I'm really curious to know more about you and your podcast.
Great. Where shall I start?
Well, maybe you could start by introducing yourself, because I know you a little bit, but so that my listeners also know you better.
Sure. So my name is Stephen Davincenzi, and I'm from the UK. From England, and I have been teaching English in different parts of the world for quite a few years. Well, I'm 30 now, so ever since I left university when I was 21, 22, I've been traveling the world and teaching English. I spent a year in Spain teaching English in a primary school. I went to Australia after that and worked in normal schools. And I went to India, taught English there, and I worked in Thailand as well for a year teaching English. And then I went to Argentina, where I spent 2 years. I spent 1 year in Buenos Aires, where your dad is from, and 1 year in the north in a place called Resistencia. Sometimes I was teaching in schools. Sometimes I was teaching in private language academies. Sometimes I was just teaching private classes myself. Sometimes I was teaching 5-year-olds, and sometimes I was teaching 85-year-olds. Big difference in abilities and ages and everything. And I think I'd say a year and a half ago, I came back to England, and I started working in a primary school. So now I'm a primary school teacher. I teach everything in a primary school, as well as trying to teach as much Spanish as I can, which is probably the language that I speak the best, other than English, of course. And I think it was April last year, during the first pandemic lockdown here in the UK, I decided to start this idea, which I'd had for ages. I'd been thinking about making Simple English News Daily podcasts for a long time, since before, I was in Argentina. And I finally had the opportunity because the schools were closed, and I thought I had this long time. I didn't know how long this lockdown was going to last. And I thought, okay, now is the time. And so I started SEND7, Simple English News Daily.
Okay, really, really nice. Hang on a second, because we want to know more about your motivation, why you started out with this podcast. So did you have any idols in mind, or did you have a specific podcast in mind, and why took it so long to start out?
Okay, great questions, Daniel. Okay, I think probably the main reason that I wanted to start Simple English News Daily was because I knew how important it was for me to learn through the news and through listening to just like real messages every day. I'm more of a learner who wants to be communicating with real information rather than sit down, now I'm going to learn French for an hour and do some exercises or something. I prefer to just really engage with real content. I think one of the first podcasts that I started listening to was one which is in French called Français Facile. It's by the media company RFI, and they do something kind of similar to Simple English News Daily in French, but of course they've got a whole news team behind them, so it's probably easier for them. And yeah, I thought it was brilliant. It was a really nice way to start the day. Yeah, I thought, yeah, I also, in my own spare time, I listen to Spanish radio, French radio, to kind of maintain my level of French and Spanish. And yeah, I thought that this should exist in English, and I tried to look for it, something similar, and there was nothing similar to that in English. And I thought, okay, I should do it myself.
Okay, I see. Yeah, that is cool. And now maybe what is your podcast all about? I mean, you mentioned it is a news podcast, but maybe you could dive deeper into it and give us more information. What is it exactly? What makes it unique?
Okay. Yeah, so the idea of Simple English News Daily is that it is really the most important things that are happening in the world every day. So we just go through by continent, we go through what's happening, and we say Europe, what's happening, the most important things that are happening in Europe. Americas, what's the most important things happening in the Americas. Africa, what's the most important things happening in Africa and Asia. Yeah, we really try and pick out what is really the most important things that are happening in the world and say it in the most simple way possible. So the idea is that I do the hard work of trying to kind of take this really massive story, which is in the international news, and putting it into the most kind of basic 3 or 4 sentences that it's possible to understand, and then putting that into the podcast. So I think most episodes, because it's 7 minutes long, which is why it's called SEND7, Simple English News Daily in 7 minutes, SEND7. And yeah, I think we probably average about 10 stories, something like that. Yeah, so it's me on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, and I have my excellent co-host Namitha, who is doing Tuesdays and Thursdays at the moment. And yeah, so yeah, that's it.
Okay, and how did you team up with these guys? I mean, how could you find them? It's a brilliant way, yes, to share the workload, right?
God, absolutely. I kind of I needed it because I'm still working full time in a primary school. So it was a crazy life to be planning and teaching these lessons every day, and working on the podcast, because it takes a few hours to make each episode. So yeah, I just put an advert out on somewhere and just said I'm looking for somebody who would be interested in sharing this with me, and Namitha got back to me. And yeah, spoke to her for a while, and yeah, she's brilliant. So yeah, really, really lucky to find her.
Okay, and you wrote to me that SEND7 is 100% independent and is dedicated to unbiased reporting of world events. So absolutely. Please tell us, what do you mean by unbiased reporting?
Yeah, so it's really difficult in this world, especially with everyone on social media and all of the different channels of media that we have, to try to just stay the most in the middle that we can. But we try as hard as we can to just tell the news, what is just what people are saying, what has happened, and try not to have any kind of spin. So just try to make it the most basic, this is what's happening, and try not to give any kind of opinion in there at all, so that people can kind of listen, of course, improve their English, and not have any kind of idea that we have any particular alliance or anything like that. And it's difficult. I've still had a few messages from people saying, oh, you haven't, I don't know, you're not being fair to, I don't know, the president of Turkey, or I don't know, something. I've had a few different messages saying things like that, but generally most of the feedback is really, really positive. So yeah, that's what I mean by unbiased. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes completely sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yes, it is produced in English, but as you mentioned, it is a lot of work to do. So
Yeah.
why doesn't it exist in another language? I mean, you could easily translate it into, let's say, French, and then produce it in another language. I mean, this would be really a great information for French learners as well.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I absolutely agree. I would love to get it running in French and Spanish as well. Definitely, I'd love to. Right now, Daniel, to be honest, I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
But one day, that would be a dream. Yeah.
As I could read on the website, we are all free to use the podcast as long as we give credit to it. So
Absolutely.
I could
Yeah.
translate it and make a German podcast out of it and just give credits to you, and then we would
Yeah,
have
you could. Yeah, you could actually. Yeah.
then we would have an English and a German version.
Yeah, definitely. No, you really could. I think you'll see how much time it takes, though, if you try to
Yes.
do that every day.
That is the problem, I see.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, great idea, though.
yeah.
If you want to, you are welcome to.
So listeners, I need your support because I can't do it alone.
Yeah. Okay, I'll find the news and I'll put it into English, and you can just do the translation parts,
Yes.
and you can put it into German. How about that?
Yes,
Good
that
team?
is perfect.
Yeah. Great.
So
great.
it would be really interesting to hear some explanations how the process of producing this podcast works.
Sure.
I mean, what
Yeah.
does a typical episode production look like? You already gave some pieces and bits, but maybe you could start from the
Yeah.
beginning,
Sure.
just so that we can have some kind of an idea of it.
Okay, so generally, I will try to go to whatever I genuinely think is the biggest story in the world that day. I mean, sometimes it's very obvious, you know, for example, when Joe Biden just became president, it's very clear that the thing that I'm going to choose as the first story then is that. Otherwise, I might look at lots of different news websites and see what they have chosen as their top story. And so I will go into the story. I read loads of articles, loads of news myself. It helps that I'm genuinely very passionate about current affairs. I really love reading about world news anyway. So I will read loads of different stories, and then I will just kind of really think, and then I stop looking at them and I think, what just happened there? What is really the most important thing that has come from that story? And then I will write it in my own 3 or 4 sentences. And then normally I try to find some kind of other audio, somebody talking, I don't know, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said this, and then I can put that in as well. Sometimes I have a few people who send little recordings of their own to me. Some listeners sometimes send things in, which is really, really nice. That's something I just started with about 6 weeks ago. I said people can send their own audio messages and we can put them in the podcast. And I've had quite a few people try that already, so that's really nice. Then once I've got everything written out, then I go to my recording software, Audacity, which you use as well, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, I start recording. And sometimes I can record the whole thing in one. Sometimes I have to, I don't know, sometimes I sneeze and have to go back and do it again. I don't know. But that's pretty much it.
What about the listeners' statistics? The news are relevant for one day, and then maybe after a week, it's not relevant anymore.
That's true.
Isn't it a bit depressing, or how shall I put it? I don't know if the listeners are going back to listen to older episodes, maybe to learn English, of course, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think about 2/3 of the listeners that we have every day are of the episode which came out that day. And then 1/3 are of old episodes. Something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I know what you mean. If I were learning English from this, I probably wouldn't listen to old episodes because it's not so relevant. But some people do. Some people like it for some reason. And one thing which is quite popular is the transcripts which are on the website. So every day when we publish a new episode, we also put the transcripts on the websites. And a lot of people, I think maybe 1 in 5 people, listens to the podcast while reading the transcripts at the same time.
I also wanted to mention it that I love the idea of the transcript. So for me, it would be wise to go back, and work with older versions or older episodes as well, because you have the transcript and you can work with that and improve your English. Another thing which I really love is that the speakers pronounce really clearly and slowly. And you also integrate small audio bits. For example, an excerpt from Boris Johnson speaking. And I find that really entertaining. So you have really the news in it, compressed, but it's also entertaining at the same time. And I just love listening to these different voices. Yeah,
that's it. Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, I mean, my intention from SEND7 is really that people maybe who don't have enough time or they don't really want to sit down and study English, they still have some 7 minutes of connection to English in their daily life. So, they wake up, they're making a coffee, and, they have a really, really, really busy day where they have to do loads of work, but they still have 7 minutes where they can listen to real messages in English. That's the main idea behind the podcast. Yeah.
So the next question, don't take the question too seriously, right?
Okay. All right, I won't. So I'm prepared.
Your podcast is aimed for English learners, right? And the news comes in a very simplistic way. I mean, with more or less simple vocabulary so that the listeners understand.
More or less. Sometimes it's not possible, though. There are some things which you just do not have a simple way of saying them. So sometimes it is more difficult, Maxim.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go on.
I see. And will there be a version for advanced or proficient English learners in the future?
The truth is, Daniel, I think that even though this is called Simple English News Daily, the real level that it is intermediate. Beginners probably can't understand this very well. I think they should listen to it because they should improve by listening to real English. But the real standard of this is kind of intermediate and probably even upper intermediate anyway. So I don't think it's necessary to make an advanced version, because I think an advanced version would just be listening to normal BBC News or something,
Yes, you're right. Yes, there is another question. I mean, why didn't you become a journalist?
Well, it's not too late.
Yeah.
Maybe I still can. Yeah.
Because you seem to really like it, this kind of work. Well, it's not work, it's a hobby, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Yeah, you're not the first person to ask me that, Daniel. And sometimes I think the same thing. I think I've always been really interested in everything which is happening in the world. So, yeah, I do like the idea of being a journalist, but at the same time, I've always really enjoyed being a teacher.
Yeah, I see.
So, I'm quite sociable. I like being in front of the class. I like doing different things, and I really love seeing people learn and seeing my students learn things over time. So it's just a mixture, but honestly, I really like making Simple English News Daily. And yeah, I do like the journalistic side of life. So maybe I'll move in that direction. Maybe I'll continue to do both. I don't know.
Thank you very much. Do you listen to your own podcast episodes?
I listen to the ones that Namitha makes. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays,
okay,
I listen to it, but I don't listen to my own because I don't know. It's too strange. Daniel, do you listen to your podcasts?
Yeah, because I am kind of forced to. Not forced to. I enjoy listening to my guests again because I re-listen to it automatically. So yes.
Okay.
But I don't like it to hear myself, you know.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing for me then. I mean, I listen to it when I'm recording to make sure that it all came out okay. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't have to listen to it again.
Stephen, would you please give us your podcast recommendation?
Yeah. Okay. What podcasts I think are good to listen to?
Yes, this could be a learning podcast
Sure.
or not.
Okay. Well, I hate to be really cheesy to start with, but My Fluent podcast, I've only listened to 2 episodes, but they were both excellent. So
Thank you, Stephen.
I can highly recommend that. There's Harri's English podcast. That's good as well.
The evil physiotherapist method hurts, but the next day, my back feels better. Language learning methods are like massages. There are comfortable learning methods. They don't actually fix our weaknesses. Then there are painful methods, but afterwards, they fix our weaknesses. Do you use a comfortable method or a painful method?
But if you like the style of Simple English News Daily, if you find my podcast reasonably easy to follow, then you could go for some of the more news podcasts that I love. Like there's Vox's Today Explained, which they explain just important stories, which is great.
John McCain, who for years had been one of the primary champions of climate action in Congress.
And I am convinced, well, there's not a doubt in my mind, that climate change is real. And we have neglected our obligation again.
And in fact, climate change didn't come up much on the campaign trail between he and Barack Obama because they basically agreed.
There's one called Axios Daily. That's a nice way to start the day as well.
Good morning. Welcome to Axios Today. It's Friday, February 26th. I'm Nyla Boodoo. Here's how we're making you smarter today. How your Fitbit might be the fastest way to detect COVID. Plus, a new look at the civil rights activism of Billie Holiday. But first, the House vote on the next stimulus bill is today's one big thing.
Which is, again, it's a bit news-based. Maybe too much United States news, unfortunately. But
And what about French or Spanish podcasts?
Yeah, for French, definitely. For French, RFI, it's called Journal en Français Facile, I think. Spanish, probably Español con Juan.
Oh, this is excellent.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's great.
Hola chicos, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de Español con Juan. Esto no es un vídeo, esto es un podcast, ¿vale? Es que hay mucha gente que confunde el podcast con el vídeo y, por ejemplo, escriben comentarios en YouTube diciendo me gusta mucho tu podcast.
Did you have him on here?
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
I had an interview with him.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Has podcasting changed your life?
Somehow, yes. So people tell me, for example, I like what you do. It's very natural. You have a lot of sense of humor. So my self-esteem is very high now compared to before. Because when I was teaching Spanish, nobody said to me all the time, oh, I love your teaching. No, sometimes some student, congratulate, but it's not that common. And here online, everybody is telling me, oh, you are a fantastic teacher. I know I'm not a fantastic teacher, but people keep telling me that. So eventually it becomes something that you get used to my brain. I don't know.
Yes, it was really amazing because I really enjoy the way how he makes his podcast in a very, very informal way,
Absolutely.
And I just love him. To me, it's like I am listening to a friend,
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So that is really cool.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's brilliant. I actually had, in the last school I was working at, when I was teaching Spanish then, actually, in a secondary school, and we had one of his books in my classroom, so that was cool. And then it was that. So I knew him first as an author rather than a podcast maker. Yeah, okay. But his podcast is it's great. Just so relaxed and talking. Yes. It really does feel like sometimes you could be listening to him walking down the streets and you want to just ask him questions and things, don't you?
Yes.
I'm just having a conversation.
You can literally feel his energy. Or yes, when he is speaking.
Totally. Do you have any more recommendations for Spanish?
For Spanish?
Yeah,
well,
I can't think of any.
Actually, he was the only podcast I was listening to, but there was one, but I think they don't produce anymore. It was called PA Podcast, the Buenos Aires podcast. This was a bilingual podcast made by an American guy and a guy from Argentina, Buenos Aires. So they have always switched 3 minutes. They were talking in English and then they were talking in Spanish. So for me, this was really the perfect fit because I could learn both languages at the same time.
Great.
This was something which was quite unique and in a very informal way. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. You've been making the podcast for a long time now, haven't you, Daniel? Was it 4 or 5 years or something?
Yes, I started out back in 2016, but I had a huge gap in between. About 1.5 years, I didn't produce anything.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, great. Did you use that time to relax?
No, the reason was because I was in an internal formation at work, so I felt a little bit overloaded.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
good.
Yes.
More relaxed now.
Yes, exactly. Now I'm more relaxed and it's good because it was really hard to start out again, to continue. Because before this huge gap, I really produced every week. This was my goal, to produce one episode so that I could improve my English speaking.
Brilliant. Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any other project or plan in mind for the future? This could be a podcast related or language learning related.
So it's difficult at the moment because I'm still full-time in a primary school. So it's difficult for me to make extra plans on the side. But if I could, I would probably just want to improve Simple English News Daily rather than do something new. So, one thing I was possibly thinking was that the truth is I want to make the news in the podcast real, really what is the most important stories in the world. And one problem with that is that sometimes, well, a lot of the time, the most important things that are happening are sad. They're quite depressing. And talking about another bomb in Afghanistan and kidnapping in Nigeria. It's quite depressing. And I try to kind of put something good next to something bad, next to something good, next to something bad, so that it's not too depressing. But I was thinking one possibility of having an extra episode a week, maybe on a Saturday, where I only talk about good news. So it's just like 7 minutes, the same format as normal, but 7 minutes of just the good news of the week, like the best things that have happened. That's one possibility.
Yes, this seems to be really a great idea. I mean, I like the format. Yes, just positive news. And by the way, I didn't know that you were actually producing live, right? Because on the website it is written that you go live 8.
No. That means the episode goes live, so it's put onto the internet.
I see.
Yeah. Do you know what? I should change the wording there because that is quite confusing, isn't it? I'm going to change that wording. Write myself a note right now to change those words.
Maybe it's because these days there are a lot of live sessions going on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
That's why I made the connection when I saw this.
I've never done that actually. I think about 6 months ago I had a kind of interview which was live with someone in Mexico. But other than that, I've never done it.
Okay.
One thing that I would like to do, maybe in the summer, would be to start some type of actual live session, just to be able to have a conversation with people who are listening about either English learning or the world news, anything. Maybe that's another possibility.
I really like that idea because I think it would be wise to, as a language learner, to actually speak about the news. That's a perfect practice method, right? Then you not only you are listening to it and reading the transcript, no, you can then after that discuss the topics with other learners And it's just a way to make it stick better and to get your practice, right?
Yeah, totally. So that would be a good idea, I hope. As I say, a few months ago, I started this option of using this website called SpeakPipe. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I know it.
It's good. So if you go to speakpipe.com/send7, you can send a message, an audio message directly to me. And some people have done that already to put their own thoughts. Some people have said their opinion on a story in the world, or just reporting the news. And that can be a nice addition to the podcast as well.
The next topic would be how to learn with the help of SEND7. So the podcast comes with a transcript. Maybe you have some recommendations how the listeners should go about it so that they can make the best out of your podcast.
Okay, yeah, sure. So firstly, I would say that, as I said before, one type of person who I think could really make the most out of this podcast is a person who does not really actively want to be practicing their English all the time. Just somebody who wants to keep contact with English, who wants to have a little bit of real, natural English in their day, every day, who's, too busy to sit down and study, yeah? So this is for that person as well. But if you do have more time, and if you do want to take it to the next level, then I would definitely recommend going to send7.org and looking at the transcripts while you're reading. Say, for example, maybe not at the moment, as most people are working from home, but when people are commuting, if you're on a train or a bus or something, it can be great to be sitting there listening to the podcast and looking at the words at the same time. I think that can be a really good way to familiarize yourself with new words and just understand pronunciation and get some new vocabulary. That can be great. I'd say, I don't know if there are many teachers that are listening to this who listen to My Fluent podcast, but there's quite a few teachers who have written to me saying that they use SEND7 with their students. I think one good thing that teachers can do is you can copy and paste the transcripts and take out some words and get your students to fill in the blanks. Of course, also, if you want to study more, what you could do is you can listen to the podcast and try to write your own summary of what has happened in each country. Or you could record your own message, your own audio message, and send it to me.
Yes,
and I can put it on the podcast tomorrow. Yeah, there you go. So there's a few different ideas for things you can do just with the podcast.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. These are really great ideas and methods. So what could you learn from podcasting? I mean, you did it now almost 1 year, and I'm sure that you could improve in various areas. Yeah. This could be technical things. This could be growing as a person. I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't choose a daily podcast if you're going to start a podcast, because you'll go crazy. Do it weekly, like Daniel does. No, it's great. I don't know. It's really fun and fulfilling. I really like it. I'm really glad that I started doing this. The best thing is randomly receiving an email or an Instagram message or something saying, hey, I listened to your podcast. I love it. It's great. It's such a nice feeling, just from somebody on the other side of the planet sending a message like that. It's a really nice feeling. But was your question like what I would recommend to people who are thinking of starting a podcast?
I would like to share your thoughts where you did improve. I mean, I give you an example. For me, I am podcasting now for many years. Yeah. And it seems to me that I can express myself better than before, right?
For sure.
And I am an introvert person. I have sometimes a hard time to get into contact with people that I don't know. And a little bit, I lost my shyness, right?
Yeah.
The podcasting in itself, how did it help you? Or
how has it helped me?
How? Yes.
Okay. I think I probably am better now at working out how to simplify stories, because I think for me, the most important thing with learning a language is communication. Why do you want to learn Greek? Well, surely it's to speak to Greek people. Number one, maybe you want to read some Greek text. Maybe you want to be able to read a Greek book. But really, for most people, I think the most important thing is just to be able to talk. And I think the same thing will happen from producing a podcast like what I have. I want the maximum number of people to understand me. Yeah. I know that if I speak English in a slow, clear way, then people will understand me. Yeah. And a lot of people, I don't know, English speakers who travel abroad and speak to people in English, they could probably just change a few little things about the way they speak, and a lot more people would be able to understand them. And yeah, I think during the 9 months that I've been making SEND7, I've probably learned more about the way that you should try to communicate difficult messages using simple language. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes absolutely sense. You see, I had a hard time to get my message through what I wanted to ask. So yes, that is communication.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. I think it's really important, and there's just some strange things that can happen with communication where you can either feel like you know a lot of a language or you don't know a lot of a language just from the person who you're talking to.
Yes.
Like when I first went to Peru, I thought my Spanish was amazing because actually in Peru, everybody speaks Spanish in a really slow and clear way. It's great. But then, I went to Chile and I didn't understand anything. And I thought, oh no, I felt like a fraud, because the people in Chile just speak it genuinely in a more difficult to understand way. So yeah, and I think the same thing happens in Britain. My accent, luckily, is quite easy to understand. But then if you go to Scotland, you'll probably find it a lot more difficult to understand people.
And how was it in Argentina?
In Argentina, it's interesting, actually, because the most difficult people to understand are in the capital, Buenos Aires. In the north, where I was living, in Resistencia, people are easier to understand. Yeah. Don't know why, but that's the way it is. Yeah.
Okay. So how does the podcast connect to how you learned languages?
Yeah, it massively connects to how I learned languages, because for me, as I've said, the most important thing for my style of learning languages is to communicate with real messages. So it's more informal. Yeah, I know some people really like to, sit down and study and learn grammar points and things like that. And that's brilliant. But it's not me. That wasn't the way that I learned French and Spanish. I studied Spanish at school and I learned some, definitely. But I really learned how to speak Spanish well by living in Spain for a year and by living in Argentina for 2 years. Today, I feel very, very confident in Spanish, extremely confident, And in French, I've had less time in the country. I've had, I spent a few months in France working in summer camps, teaching English, actually. But I still have managed to improve my level just by doing these kind of natural things. So listening to a lot of French radio, some French podcasts sometimes, and by reading French news. So it's, this kind of just, what I would say is a more natural way of learning, is what really works for me. And so that's why I wanted to make this podcast the most, for me, natural way of learning. It was a method of learning English which doesn't look like a way of learning English. It's just literally listening to English. That's it.
You are a teacher, and my question now is, did the process of teaching others help you in any way with learning a language for yourself?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Good question, Daniel. Yeah, so hopefully it's done both things. It's definitely helped me to understand languages myself, and hopefully it's made me a better teacher as well, going through the learning process. So as I've been teaching English and a bit of Spanish and French as well, I've tried to make my lessons, more focused on communicating real messages rather than focusing on grammar points and things like that. Of course, sometimes it's necessary to look at grammar. Sometimes it can actually be fun to look at grammar and vocabulary sometimes. But yeah, I try to make more of a focus on communicating real messages. And when it's possible, I try to focus on speaking more than anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I guess people mostly struggle a lot with speaking, I guess. Yeah. In any case, this was the main area for me, which was the hardest, It still is.
Because if you want to read something, you can just go and find something on the internet. If you want to listen to something, you can do that easily, listen to a podcast. If you want to write something, of course you can. But if you want to speak to someone, that's more difficult. You have to actually go out of your way, find a way to actually do that. Yeah.
And on the spot. You don't have 10 minutes time to reflect and
do you know what? One piece of advice that I would give for that, Daniel, is talk to yourself. Maybe you look like a crazy person walking down the street talking to yourself, but I really did do this in Spanish and French. I would be walking down the street and I would be thinking, looking around thinking, how do I say that? How do I say that? And making it sentences, trying to make conversation with yourself. Kind of like how Español con Juan, how he is talking to himself all the time. Try that.
You should have recorded yourself by doing so and then publish it.
It's a good idea. Yeah. But honestly, talking to yourself can be a good way, maybe just in your head, so you don't look like a complete crazy person. Just talking to yourself, I think, is a really good way of being able to practice the fourth skill of the 4 skills.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Stephen, for that. I really like that. So, Stephen, where can we find you? And do you have any last thoughts you want to share with us to wrap this interview up?
Thank you very much. Wrap up the interview. That's a great expression. Thank you for having me, Daniel. People can listen to Simple English News Daily in their podcast app. All of them, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, all of them, I think. You can look for Simple English News Daily podcast, and the website where you can find the transcripts and all old episodes is send7.org, SEND7.org. And you can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEND7 Podcast, at SEND7 Podcast. But I think that's pretty much it, Daniel.
Okay, cool, Stephen. Thank you very much. And of course, I will put the links in the show notes so that the listeners can easily find the way to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. The interview on my film podcast is over, but it continues on my other show, which is called The Vocab Man, in which we try to explain different practical expressions that you can use in your daily life. So if you are an English learner, you might also like episode 57 of The Vocab Man, in which Stephen is explaining his favorite expression, which is a pretty simple one to look forward to. And don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any interview or language learning tips. Bye!
We really try and pick out what is really the most important things that are happening in the world and say it in the most simple way possible.
Unbiased reporting.
It's really difficult in this world, especially with everything on social media and all of the different channels of media that we have, to try to just stay the most in the middle that we can. But we try as hard as we can to just tell the news. What is just what people are saying and what has happened, and try not to have any kind of spin.
I don't know if you know Toblerone chocolate.
Yeah, delicious.
It's the mountain which is depicted on the chocolate package.
Ah,
that is
right.
the Matterhorn.
The reason it's got that triangle shape.
Yes, so that's where I come from that region.
Oh, brilliant. It's probably my favourite chocolate, actually.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, it's delicious. It's excellent.